If you're building a game in 2025, you've probably felt it. Getting funded feels harder than ever. Deals are slower, investors are cautious, and publishers are picking fewer projects. But the truth is, the money hasn't disappeared. It's just following a new logic. The way games are financed is evolving, from how venture capital flows to how grants, angels, and even publishers manage risk. And for studios that understand this shift, there are still plenty of opportunities. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Life About Games. As usual, my name is Alex, and today we'll be breaking down the new reality of video game funding. Who's still investing, what they're looking for, and how smart studios are adapting. According to venture capital Konvoy's latest Q2 2025 report, global gaming revenue is forecast to reach around $189 billion by the end of the year, a modest 3.4% increase over 2024. There are now about 3.4 billion players worldwide. When the market expands by double digits, investors chase every shiny idea. When growth levels out, they become selective. The funding story of 2025 isn't one of collapse. It's one of discipline. Capital is shifting from speculation to sustainability. And that's forcing the industry to look outward, borrowing models and best practices from sectors like film, venture capital, and traditional finance. For years, when money was abundant, strategy was optional. But in today's environment, success requires structure, planning, and focus. The era of build it and they will come is over. This is the age of intentional funding. 5 years ago, venture funds were chasing anything labeled metaverse. Today, the smartest investors are backing ecosystems, studios building technology, pipelines, or communities that can outlive a single launch. For example, London Venture Partners has backed teams like Singularity 6, creators focused on world building and persistent communities. Hero Capital supports Flavorworks and others experimenting with new narrative tech and player agency. These aren't one-shot projects, they're long-term plays, and that's reflected in the numbers. Konvoy reports that venture funding fell 47% last quarter, while private strategic investment, acquisitions and partnerships jumped 66%. The big checks are still being written, but they're flowing to scalable, tech-enabled ventures. And we've seen what happens when the old model meets the new reality. Take Build a Rocket Boy, the studio behind Mind's Eye. Backed by more than $86 million and led by former Grand Theft Auto producer Leslie Benzies, it was one of 2025's most anticipated independent projects. But after launch, Mind's Eye struggled critically and commercially, and reports of layoffs followed. It's a stark reminder that even prestige and heavily funded games are no longer safe bets. That's why investors aren't changing tactics. They're not abandoning games, but diversifying their portfolios. Instead of investing $100 million into one risky blockbuster, they'll invest $10 million into 10 promising teams. It's classic portfolio theory. One hit can pay for the rest. Now, not every studio fits the venture model, and that's okay. The funding ecosystem in 2025 is broader than ever, and public funds and tax relief programs remain a cornerstone for early development. In the UK, the UK Games Fund and Video Games Tax Relief continue to back prototype stage studios and retain local talent. The UK government's own evaluation proved that these programs drive jobs and long-term studio growth. Across the US, support has expanded at both federal and state levels. The Epic Mega Grants program keeps funding innovative tools, accessibility projects, and smaller creative titles. And states like Georgia, California, and Texas now offer competitive tax incentives, making the US one of the most active development hubs outside Asia. Canada deserves an honorable mention too, with the Canada Media Fund and Ontario Creates still ranking among the world's most developer-friendly initiatives. Then we have angel and microfund investment, where we are seeing many ex-industry veterans or successful indie founders who understand the risks, wanting to give back. Their decisions aren't just financial. They balance instinct with experience, often spotting potential others miss because they've been on the creative side themselves. Look at Pocket Pair, the creators of Palworld. After their breakout success, they didn't just expand their studio. They launched their own micro-publishing arm to fund and mentor other indies. It's a clear sign of where the industry is heading. Successful developers becoming investors themselves. Capital isn't just trickling down anymore. It's circulating within the creator community. Crowdfunding is also quietly experiencing a renaissance. 2024 saw Kickstarter reach its highest video game funding totals in nearly a decade, while new platforms like GameFound and BackerKit are gaining traction with better tools for creators and backers alike. And we're also seeing the rise of equity crowdfunding, led by platforms such as Fig, where supporters can invest directly and share in a game's financial success. This model blurs the line between investor and player, turning community into capital. And for developers, this matters because it changes negotiation power. A studio with thousands of paying backers or verified investors suddenly has leverage. Publishers and VCs treat that as proof of demand. Crowdfunding no longer means just early access to a t-shirt. It's become a legitimate funding route, one that complements public funds and private capital, not competes with them. Meanwhile, self-publishing has never been more accessible. Digital infrastructure has matured. Distribution, analytics, marketing automation, and payment systems are all simpler and cheaper than ever before. Platforms like Steam, Epic, itch.io, and GOG have lowered technical barriers so far that studios can manage their own launches, updates, and community campaigns. That accessibility is starting to put a bit of pressure on publishers. While the new industry reality is constraining budgets, and risk tolerance is lower than it's been in years, the truth is publishers still need to publish. It's a tension that clearly defines the market right now. On one hand, publishers are demanding more from studios before greenlighting a project. They want a playable prototype, a clear production plan, a compelling pitch deck, and visible community traction. On the other hand, their business models still rely on discovering and launching new titles. So while they've become more selective, they remain open to new ideas and partnerships, especially from teams who aren't just limiting themselves to genre chasing and have the vision and experience to back them up. At the same time, we're also seeing the rise of co-funding and even publisher-to-publisher collaborations. It's no longer a zero-sum game. Even the old console boundaries are dissolving. We now have PlayStation games on Xbox and Xbox titles arriving on PlayStation. The recently announced Halo campaign Evolved, a faithful yet modernized remake of the original Halo campaign, is launching in 2026 for Xbox, PS5, and PC. And that is a huge deal. A few years ago, that cross-platform release, especially of such a flagship IP as this one, would have been unthinkable. But it illustrates the shift perfectly. Platforms and publishers are realizing that collaboration, not exclusivity, drives sustainability. This spirit of cooperation is slowly reshaping publishing. Instead of trying to own every part of the value chain, these companies are forming networks, sharing risk and resources, and staying agile in a market that rewards flexibility over scale. Whether it's a publisher, VC, or angel, everyone's aligned on what matters. 1. A playable build. No one funds design docs. 2. A team with identity. Investors back people first, product second. 3. Market understanding. Know your audience and how to reach them. 4. Realistic planning. Budgets and milestones that make sense. 5. Proof of engagement. Wish lists, Discord activity, demo stats, or crowdfunding traction. Creativity still matters, but clarity matters more. Yes, capital is tighter, but it's also smarter. And for studios that plan strategically, this is an opportunity. Because while speculative funding has cooled, strategic funding through partnerships, microfunds, or co-publishing is thriving. Self-publishing tools, grants, and angel networks give smaller teams unprecedented control. And publishers who once ignored small projects are now actively chasing them. The video game industry isn't shrinking, it's reorganizing. And the studios that thrive are those that treat funding like game design itself. Iterate, test, adapt. So, what's the new reality of video game funding? It's not that the money has vanished, it's that it's maturing. Capital today is managed like a portfolio, not a lottery ticket. Instead of chasing one miracle hit, investors are building balanced slates. And that creates space for more voices, more experiments, and more chances to break through. In 2025, getting funded isn't about luck. It's about preparation, clarity, and proving why your game deserves to exist. And on that note, we reach the end of today's video. If you found it useful, consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Not only will you be notified when new content comes out, but also help these topics reach a wider audience. Until next time, stay happy and keep gaming.